Okay, so the Advanced Diploma, as I said previously, is made up of 2 years. In total, there are 8 units. I'm just going to go through them as they appear on the slides. So, employee engagement is looking at employee engagement is looking at what employee engagement is, how do we achieve it, what are the benefits of it. You will be undertaking a 3,000-word report looking at the situation in your own organisation and considering how employee engagement could be improved. Performance management, you're looking at what is performance management, why it's necessary, what's the purpose of it, but you're also looking at appraisals. Are they still of benefit today? Do they still serve a purpose? There's a big debate round about that, so we're getting you to look at that debate. Obviously, they're not always very popular with employees, so why do companies continue to want to use them? And if they are continuing to be used, then how do we make sure that what we're doing is adding value for the organisation and actually serving a purpose rather than just being a tick box exercise? Assessment here would be a 3,000-word assignment, probably a report looking at the situation in your own organisation and assessing what you do currently. Does it work? Is it effective? How can it be improved? Employment law, similar, looking at how to make sure companies aren't getting burned by ending up at employment tribunals that they can't win, that it's going to cost them a lot of money and do a lot of damage to the organisation. So you spend quite a bit of time looking at understanding the law, understanding its purpose. You'll look at discrimination legislation, you'll look at unfair dismissal, you'll look at to-pay transfers, all sorts of different aspects of the law. For the assessment, you are given a case study with a range of different scenarios that you're asked to assess what is happening, what are the likely defences that the company could use, what is a risk that the company could lose the case, and if that were to happen, what is the damage, what's the risk to the company in terms of reputation as well as any penalties that might be imposed. So you're looking at all of that. With the assessments on the Advanced Diploma, we are looking for you to be quite strategic. So we're looking for you to think about, how does this impact on the business? How does this impact on the ability of the organisation to actually deliver against its objectives? Okay, so with those 3 assessments, all the assessments are graded, so you would get a pass would be between 50 and 59%. A merit would be between 60 and 69, and a distinction would be between 70 and 100%. If you don't pass first time, you would get a refer, and that means that you have a second chance to rectify any problems, to fix the problems, resubmit. But if that happens and you pass on your second attempt, your pass is capped at 50%. Okay, so that's the only thing to bear in mind. It will go through as a pass. When we submit the paperwork to CIPD, it doesn't say whether it's a first attempt or a second attempt. We don't actually submit the grades to the pass marks to CIPD, they get the grades. If you don't pass with your second attempt, it would then be a fail, and you would have to repeat the unit the following year. Human resource management in context is an exam subject. the marking criteria is exactly the same. So with the exam, you still get pass, merit, distinction. The one slight difference is you obviously don't get a refer because it's either pass or fail an exam, but with the exam it would be, you could get a marginal fail, which I think is 45, 46 to 49. So it's kind of like you're almost there, but you just haven't quite passed. Or it could be a fail. Human resource management in context looks at strategy, different types of strategy. What is strategy? What are the different theories? How do we apply them? Both business strategy and HR strategy. So we'll look at different HR strategies. We'll look at how the HR department is structured, what different theories apply there. We look at organisational theory, so we look at how organisations are structured and set up as well. We look at the role of different managers, different management functions. So we're looking at the different departments almost within an organisation. So it's not just about understanding HR, it's about understanding the full organisation, what the different departments do, how HR should be working with those to work together so collectively they're delivering the organisational goals. We also look outside of the company. We look at what are the social factors, what are the political factors, what are the economic factors impacting on organisations in the broadest sense. We carry out what's called a steeple analysis, which will take you through in quite a bit of detail. But that's quite significant. So we will be looking a lot at current affairs. So one of the best things you can actually do for that unit is to watch the news. Regrettably, at the moment, it's full of the coronavirus and coronavirus and Alex Salmond's trial. But something like the coronavirus, I think, very clearly illustrates the impact something like that can have on organisations. So we look at what's happening outside of the company and think about how that impacts on the company and how you respond to that, how the company is responding, but also from an HR perspective, what's your role in supporting the company in responding to those factors as well. So as I say, it's an exam set by CIPD. The exam's in two sections. There's a case study, which we get 4 weeks before the exam. No questions, just a case study. And the second part is a series of short questions that you have to answer. You have to answer 5 questions in the exam, as well as the questions with the case study. The exam for human resource management in context is usually at the end of May. Developing skills for business leadership, as I said in the main presentation, is assessed at the end of second year, but we do introduce it in the beginning of, at the end of first year. So there are 2 workshops in first year. One is where Tricia and myself introduce you to the unit, introduce you to the learning outcomes, and it really is about understanding what you should be doing, how you should be operating at chartered member level, really. So if you want to be a chartered member, what should you be doing? How should you be performing? What skills do you need? And looking at how you develop those and looking for the evidence to support that. So we'll take you through that. The second workshop is actually one run by our accounts colleague, and you have to be able to demonstrate that you have a knowledge of financial management. So he will take you through that, and the materials that are covered in the class in the workshop with him will actually go towards meeting the requirements for that element of that unit. Year 2, we look at knowledge management. Knowledge management is quite interesting because it's about how do we ensure that if people leave the organisation, if someone retires, how do we make sure that when they go, we keep the knowledge that they have within the organisation? Or if some people in the organisation have specialist knowledge or specialist expertise. How do we ensure that's shared? How do we ensure that that's being utilised for the benefit of everybody and the benefit of the organisation? So knowledge management's looking at how do we tap into all that knowledge that's within the organisation? How do we capture it? How do we get it shared? So the assessment for that is looking at some of those questions and thinking about how do we apply that to our organisation. What happens within your own organisation currently? What works, what doesn't work, what could be done better, and then thinking about how can you actually do that. So like some of the units in year 1, this would be another report of about 3,000 words where you are analysing the situation within your own organisation. Leading, managing and developing people is the other exam subject. In terms of structure, it's exactly the same as human resource management in context. You have a case study 4 weeks before the exam, questions on the case study that you will get when you go into the exam, and you will have a series of questions where you have to pick 5 from 10. They're in pairs. So from each pair you pick one question, but you're answering questions under exam conditions. And as I said previously, the exams are set by CIPD, the papers go back to CIPD, they're marked by CIPD. I don't get any feedback, I don't have any control or any input in terms of the questions that are coming up in the exam, but that's why we have the evening classes for the exams, because we need to make sure that you're as well prepared as you can be going into the exam, that you have the confidence about how to answer the exam questions, because the feedback year in, year out from the examiners is students fail the exam in the majority of cases because they're not answering the exam questions correctly. They're being too superficial, but what I do is myself that delivers these units, and what I do is get you to practice exam questions. I take in your work, I mark it, I give it back to you, so you're getting very targeted feedback about this is what you've done and here's what you're doing really well, but if you do this it'll help improve your mark, or you need to be careful and do this in a different way, and I'll give you that specific targeted guidance. Investigating a business issue is the management report. So it's like a dissertation. You have to identify your own topic. You pick an issue within the workplace, whether it's something you want to explore, a project that you're working on, a new strategy that you want to develop and implement, or you're looking into a problem that you've got in the workplace and you're finding out what's causing the problem, how do you fix it. But whatever you pick, you're picking something that you want to do or that your organisation wants you to do, and you're going to write a report on that. It's 7,000 words. But it's marked in exactly the same way as everything else. So you've got past minute distinction. And the assessment for developing skills for business leadership, as I said, we start this in year 1, but it is assessed in year 2. Generally speaking, the management report should be submitted at the beginning of May and round about the same time, or perhaps over kind of like from the 1st of May to about the 15th of May, we are assessing developing skills, and that is done through you're invited to come in for a job interview where you have to do a presentation covering the learning outcomes that are in the unit, demonstrating how you have competence in the different things. So as I think I said in the previous video, looking at team building, looking at your personal development, CPD records and plans and things like that, looking at your leadership skills, looking at your planning skills, looking at your time management skills. So it can be all sorts of different things that you're looking at, but you're putting all of that together and you're presenting it in a presentation that you do at a simulated job interview. Then after that we would have the job interview that would be carried out as well. So you do a lot of work collecting, bringing everything together to do that, but it is a skills assessment that you're presenting at a job interview. And the one thing to say is your mentor that you have throughout the full time of your studies, at the point that you're working on these two units, the management report and the developing skills for business leadership, your mentor becomes your supervisor. So your supervisor doesn't just help you with your management report, they will also help you in preparation for your presentation and your interview. So we're there to guide you to make sure that you're targeting the presentation in the right way, that you're thinking about the right kind of things, that you're pitching it at the right strategic level. So you're not totally on your own. You will have that one-to-one support on an ongoing basis with your supervisor. As with everything else, it is marked past merit distinction, and since we changed to this assessment, the results have improved. So for us, it does seem to be working quite well as an assessment, but I think it's also quite good for students that by the time you've got to that part in your career, you're perhaps thinking about progression. Interview practice is not a bad thing anyway, so it's helping you with your career. And some of the paperwork and some of the information that you'll gather for the developing skills unit, you will also then be able to use to take forward when you're applying to upgrade from student member to chartered member. Chartered membership is not automatic with the course. It is something that you have to apply for to CIPD. So the course gives you the knowledge element that you need for CIPD membership at chartered level, but you have to demonstrate that you have the skills and behaviours that they're looking for from the workplace. So again, if that is something you're thinking about, you can tailor what you're doing for the developing skills assessment so that it mirrors what you would need to do for applying for chartered membership at the same time as well. So that is the course, that is all the units, and I think I've taken you through all the different assessment methods for each of them. Obviously, we will be following up with a one-to-one interview with yourself. So if you do have any questions about any of the units or about any of the assessments, please don't hesitate to ask when you're at interview, or if it occurs to you after interview, again, please don't hesitate to drop us an email. More than happy to answer any queries.